a marathon in 16 weeks. Really, that's not the approach that most physicians would tell you. The body does take time to adapt to increasing stress, and I can tell you that most people that come in with running injuries is because they did too much, too soon, too fast. Yesterday afternoon was actually quite amusing because I had about 5 runners email me throughout the day, and I do carry my crack barrier around. I'm one of those psycho people. But I had 5 runners email me throughout the day. I think I broke something. I think I tore a tendon. I fell down into a pothole, whatever it was. And all of them were seen by the end of the day. And most of them had the same type of story. Well, you know, my shoes may have been a little bit worn out, and I decided to go do a speed workout when I hadn't done one in 6 months. Well, you know, I decided I'm going to run the White Rock Marathon, and my longest run was 6 miles, but I decided to do 15 on Saturday. And you're laughing, but we've all done it.
Right?
We've all done it. Yeah, that is bad.
Okay, all right. I
that
wanted
is
to make
bad.
sure you said that.
A lot of us do it because of the fact that we're in a training program, we're in a group, and maybe we're out of town on a business trip. Maybe our kids are sick and we don't get a run in. And we decide the next week to go run with our friends. Okay, and our friends are doing 18, and maybe our longest run was 12. Well, if you use the 10% rule, which is what you should be using, which means you should not increase your mileage more than 10% per week, going from 12 to 18 is probably stupid.
I agree.
Hey, we have agreement from the crowd. But we all do it because we want to be social. What would be a better thing is to tell your friends, you know what, I'm going to go out for 14, and then I'm going to walk home. Or I'm going to go out for the first 7 and turn around and come back. Because it really is probably the #1 reason that people hurt themselves. The #2 reason that people hurt themselves is that they're in bad shoe gear. It's not that the people at Luke's put you in a bad pair of shoes. It's that you have unrealistic expectations of how long those shoes are supposed to last. How many people have 2 pairs of shoes that they're working on right now? Oh, maybe we have taught people something. That's wonderful. You really do need 2 pairs of shoes. If you're going to run anything longer than a 10K, you need 2 pairs of shoes. Studies have shown that the midsole of the shoe takes more than 24 hours to bounce back. So if you are running every day, or you're running 5 out of 7 days a week, you need 2 pairs of shoes, mark them A and B, and kind of crisscross them throughout the week. Now some people will take 1 pair of shoes as their short shoe, and that will be maybe a little bit more flexible pair, a lighter pair of shoes, and you'll have a little bit heavier pair of shoes that you use for your longer runs, and that will be your pair B. I do that myself. I run in the Brooks Adrenaline for under 10 miles, and I run in the Brooks Trans for over 10 miles. That works for me. Other people pick the same exact shoe, mark them A and B, put it in their training log, and just make sure that they're swapping shoes back and forth. And then there's Lynn, who just like does the, you know, let me see which one is not still stinky.
That doesn't work.
That does not work.
Okay.
You know, that's the other thing in Texas is that if you run in wet shoes, you're going to get fungus. And you're going to get toenails that look like his.
Thank you.
Love you, baby. But seriously, runners get tinnitus, which is athlete's foot fungus, and that athlete's foot fungus is actually what causes those nasty yellow gross toenails that you see a lot of long distance runners have. Notice I have very cute toenails. Hence,
Well, that's because they're painted pink.
but they're also not nasty underneath. But I have 2 pairs of shoes that I swap back and forth, and actually when I'm doing a lot of mileage, I'll actually have 3 pairs of shoes that I swap back and forth. Well worth the money. If you think about it, if you took up cycling, you're going to spend like $2,500 on a good bike, a pair of shoes, and a biking helmet. To spend $135 on 2 pairs of shoes is not that big of a deal. So we do have a cheap, you're making faces here.
No, I'm not.
We do have an inexpensive hobby when compared to things like cycling and hockey and things like that. So #1 is we do too much, too soon, too fast. #2 is that we have inadequate shoe gear. #3 is that we don't listen to our bodies. Last time I checked, all of us have day jobs. You know, something that pays the rent. They say that the definition of success, if you don't have a day job, you're in serious trouble. But they say that the definition of success is living life on your own terms. Well, my own term says that my day job finances my ideal lifestyle. And my ideal lifestyle runs about 15 hours a week. And that's what I have defined as success for me. Well, in order to do that, I have to listen to my body. And there are days that I get up because either my kids were up late or I had a very busy day in the office, and And the next day you get up and you feel like you got run over by a truck. And it doesn't matter what your profession is, whether you're a school teacher, a store clerk, a lawyer, a doctor, you're going to have bad days. Well, if your schedule says that you're supposed to run 15 miles, or you're supposed to do a speed workout on that day when you wake up and you just basically feel like crap, perhaps we should listen to our bodies and reposition. Because people get hurt when they're tired. And it doesn't matter whether you get up and it's Saturday morning and your friends are already bodies, because 18 miles, if you feel like you got run over by a truck, perhaps run with the slower group, run with somebody else, bring the iPod, do a walk run, change it up. The schedule is a guide, not the Bible. And so we really do need to listen to our runners who run tired and looking like epileptics after about 10 or 12 miles, and they end up hurting themselves. That's when people fall into potholes, sprain their ankles falling off a curb, or trip over their own feet. And you'd be amazed on how many people do that. I've seen everything from broken ankles to skull fractures falling off a curb. So it's important to listen to your body. The other thing that we need to do is make sure that we actually have adequate nutrition. I will be the first one to say I tend to be naturally thin. 30 years of running has helped. But I've actually had to increase the amount of carbohydrates and proteins that I eat so that I actually can get faster. And especially women, when we get into our 30s and 40s, we tend to be calorie conscious. We tend to try to do low fat. We try to, restrict our diets, because we all know after 40 we start packing on the pounds, and it doesn't matter who you are and how much you run. But that's actually the wrong approach. The right approach is to eat several meals throughout the day, keep that carbohydrate load going, and keep your metabolism high. Because if you eat several small meals throughout the day and not some gigantic meal at night, you actually tend to maintain your ideal weight, maintain your fitness, and not be tired, because you don't have the carbohydrates you need to go out there and run. Because remember, if you go out and run a long run and you don't have that fat store to burn, then you tend to burn muscle. And so you're actually wasting your time and doing what we call garbage miles.